What measures will you take for having a transparent system of administration?
So do you think they have undue influence while deciding the agenda of WTO discussion this year, and they force the governments to extend tax-free regime for e-commerce?
Why candidates are preferring indirect taxes over direct taxes surveys?
Can you please give me one example of judicial legislation?
May I come in, sir?
Yes, come in.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, sir.
Please be seated.
Thank you, sir.
Please give a brief introduction about yourself.
Sir, I was born and brought up in my native village. Most of my later schooling I did from Hisar district, and for my graduation I went to Tata Institute of Social Sciences. Sir, so my outlook is informed from a rural, urban as well as metropolitan perspective. I am essentially a student in that I have a thirst for knowledge and an orientation to apply it to my day-to-day life. Last year I got selected as HCS officer and then as IRS officer. Currently I am serving in IRS income tax.
So you are undergoing training, Bhawesh, or your training, you have completed your training?
Sir, I am on EOL in IRS.
You are on EOL, you didn't join. After joining you took
Yes,
EOL. Sir. Okay. Tell me, you are working in income tax. I will not ask you questions about your department which you have yet to join. But you see, transparency and corruption, two issues go hand in hand. Public perception is that Indian bureaucracy, besides many other maladies, corruption is one issue of concern for the people. So suppose if you are already there in the service, once you go to the working post, suppose you are posted as a district magistrate of a district in Haryana itself, what measures will you take for having a transparent system of administration?
So to solve a problem, first we need to understand the problem well. So if I am posted in Hisar, firstly I'll liaise with the outgoing DM. I'll liaise with the other people who are there, known to me, so to understand the problem. Thereafter I'll take the steps. I'll ensure that the people who are honest, who have integrity, they are promoted, and I'll liaise with them to ensure that my image as an officer of integrity is there. I'll ensure that the work culture is good. I'll deploy technology as and when needed to ensure that any area where there is discretion and which can be misused, that is curtailed. And sir, I'll also liaise with the government to make suitable policy based on my experiences. Sir.
It is generally believed, Bhavesh, that in a government organization, 10% employees are very honest. Another 10% employees are extremely dishonest. And 80% are fence-sitters. How are you going to influence those 80% who ultimately, at least during your tenure, they come to your side?
Sir, so I'll take a two-pronged approach. One from the above to ensure that all the transgressors are suitably punished. I'll ensure that technology and public grievance redressal mechanisms are there so that complaints can be there and they will be suitably punished. From below, I'll ensure that the culture of department is such in which honesty is promoted. I'll ensure that the department itself understands that duty they have to the public. I will conduct seminars and workshops. I'll liaise with NGOs which are reputed in this regard.
Okay, sir. The emphasis of the government is to transit from the rule-based administration to role-based administration. So, do you think that in a government organization where we have so many agencies like the CBI, the vigilance, internal audit, so on and so forth, is it possible to do away with the rules?
Sir, I think the point of role-based organization is not to do away with rules, but to incorporate them in a manner that the people understand their role and they give primacy to their roles as well as their duty to the people, so that rules do not lead to red tapeism or bureaucratic apathy. So rather than doing away with rules, we need to incorporate them within the spirit of role-based organization.
You have a very interesting hobby of dialectic conversations with self. Could you give us one example of how do you talk to yourself?
Sir, so I basically adopt the Socratic method in which, for example, if I see something in the newspaper, then I'll discuss it with myself. First off will be the obvious reason of...
Give me one concrete example and tell me how you think and what conclusions do you draw after weighing pros and cons of your thinking?
So recently I was reading about the Maratha reservation issue. So the thesis that, firstly I'll give myself a thesis that whether it is good or bad, and then I'll go to the antithesis and I'll keep that pro and con. I'll look at from each vantage point how the reservation will impact the other OBC communities, how the message it sends to other dominant castes in different regions, how it perpetuates reservation system itself, which was earlier meant to be 10 years. Then I give counterpoints how it is a good point, how even Maratha community will have some backward people, so empowering them is necessary. So this to and fro will go on. Usually I arrive at a synthesis which takes into account all these considerations and is a balanced one, sir.
Thank you very much, Bhavesh.
Bhavesh, if we apply your dialectics in election commission, the present condition of election commission, what is your reaction about that?
Exactly.
Election commission,
yes, sir.
the present condition regarding the members and how it is constituted and what is happening recently. Yeah, in that manner, in that context.
So the first thing is the thesis would be that election commission has to be an impartial body. It has to be the epitome of democratic impartiality. The problem with this is what we are seeing. First of all, there is discretion of the government that has been curtailed to some extent with the recent government bill. So that is a progressive step, because earlier it was completely the discretion of the Prime Minister. Now there is another cabinet minister and leader of opposition. So that is one good aspect. Another aspect has to be that it has to be taken forward, because we are seeing that there has to be credibility of democratic institutions to ensure legitimacy and to ensure that popular trust is there. And election, which is a festival of democracy, should not be reduced in any manner. So the synthesis that arrives is the thesis was okay, and we have to move forward. The synthesis has to take into account going forward the people's concerns, the concerns of democracy, sir.
Okay. Bhavesh, recently CAA is in news. So what is your reaction to its implementation?
So I think it is a step in the right direction. The philosophy of it is sound, that India as a responsible power, as a civilizational state that upholds principles of humanitarianism, and it is also a safe haven. It shows that people flock to India to escape persecution, that only shines our democratic credentials. So the philosophy is good, and there was, I believe that there was a bit of a gap in building popular trust. I think the government has done well, because right now there are no protests. So that aspect has also been done in a good manner. So I think it is the right step, sir.
And what about UCC? Is there any obstruction in its implementation?
Sir, Article 44 of our Constitution does direct us to ensure that a UCC is there. But because it is a politically contentious issue, because it has drawn such diverse viewpoints, and because it can be a polarizing issue in a society where we are already seeing deepening of social fault lines, so there has to be a lot of political capital invested in it. It is the right step forward. We have to move towards it. But the move towards that, we have to do that in a calibrated manner to ensure that all the people feel that they are heard, that all the stakeholders are part of it.
Don't you think that it will also infringe the right to freedom, right enjoyed by the citizens regarding their freedom?
Sir, it is arguable that there is a mismatch between the two. In such cases, the Supreme Court has given us the direction in Shroor Mat case of the essential, what are the essential practices of a religion. So we can demarcate the red lines in each religion, that these are the things we won't encroach upon. That is, the rights under Article 25 to 28 are protected. But otherwise, as a modern society, as a secularizing society, as a rationalizing society, we have to move forward with the UCC. And as I said, so the red lines can be demarcated. Okay,
last question from my side, Bhavesh. Two words, that is socialism and secular, also in news. Presently they are the part of the preamble. So what is your opinion, whether they should be removed from the preamble or remain there?
Sir, I think they should remain there. The word socialism, I think beyond the economic model, it has connotations that India is a welfare state, which in any case is delineated in Article 38 of the Constitution. The philosophy of socialism, that you always have to take the weaker section first. that you have to cater to the weakest link in the chain. I think that philosophy is very much deep, not only in our constitution, but in our civilization as well. So in that regard, socialism should be there. And secondly, sir, secular. The word secular should not be understood in the Western context. In S.R. Bommai case, Supreme Court has held that Indian secularism is distinct from the Western concept, and we favor Sarv Dharm Sambhav, the Gandhian idea. So rather than building on their model of secularism, secularism should stay there, and we should build on an indigenous model that respects all religions, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Bhavesh.
Bhavesh, what is crony capitalism?
Sir, crony capitalism is when the big MNCs and the big corporates, they have undue influence over the politicians, and they get their way in policy making.
So do you think they have undue influence while deciding the agenda of WTO discussion this year? And they force the governments to extend tax-free regime for e-commerce?
Sir, I think it can be read into it. I'm not privy to the conversations that happened there, sir. But one can safely assume that there must have been an element to it. But at the same time, we also have to consider the developed countries' concerns, and not only the crony capitalism, but even the developed countries want the extension of the moratorium. So I guess, sir, there is a confluence of both their interests.
What is the logic of extending moratorium? Why shouldn't companies like Amazon be taxed?
Sir, for India, the concerns are because they conduct so much of their business in India, so much of their profits are derived from us. So the government should be given a revenue, a part of their revenue. But since the moratorium is extended, that means India won't be getting it, and it goes into the developed countries' kitties, sir.
Okay. What do you understand by resource curse?
Sir, resource crunch is when...
Not crunch, curse.
Sorry, sir, I have not heard that term.
Abhishap, Hindi.
Oh, curse. Okay, sir. Sir, resource curse is when a country has resources, and rather than benefiting that country, it leads to more deterioration of its socio-polity and economy.
Like?
So we have seen that in Africa, where diamond wars have been there, because they want to, all the parties, all the different groups want to take ownership of these resources. There are conflicts, and the entire society gets mired into conflicts, and socio-political divisions happen, sir.
Apply this concept in the Middle East?
So in the Middle East, there is crude oil. We have seen that when Iran invaded Iraq, and we are seeing that also in cases of different countries wanting more say in the OPEC deal.
Again, apply these concepts in Chhattisgarh, Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, Orissa, Jharkhand.
Sir, in these countries, this is the...
States.
Sir, in these states, these are the areas of the Deccan Plateau which are most mineral rich. And these are also the areas, if we see the map of India, there is an overlap between the tribals residing and the minerals over there. So, sir, the state wants to, on one hand, wants to extract these minerals, on the other hand, does not want to encroach the rights of these individuals. So, there is the result is Naxalism. The tribals want to maintain their autonomy. That is the curse, sir.
Mines and Mineral Development Act 1957 provides for royalty to be given to states. There is a case going on in Supreme Court nowadays. The states are arguing that they should have the right to impose their own cess.
Sir.
What is your understanding? Should they be given the right to impose cess?
Sir, I think we have to look from both the sides. The states also have a point that they want the royalties accruing to their regions so that they can develop these people who are, if we see at their socio-economic indicators, they are some of the most backward people of India, and they have the right to development. But at the same time, sir, India, because in the neoliberal capitalist world, we have to be a competition state. We have to ensure that the corporates are flocking to our country so that FDI comes, investment comes, private capex comes, which makes the economy. So, sir, we have to look at a balanced way forward in which we can also help the indigenous people and also attract privates, because both these things need to cumulatively ensure that the economy of the region grows.
The global crony capitalism is prevailing over social concerns.
So once again, sir, I am not privy to how the policies are made, but one can see that in certain areas, there is a correlation between the concerns of the corporates and the policy making. But one can also see that in the sense that corporates and companies' investments are necessary, that we need to favor them because they are going to drive our economy forward. I like to see it in the latter sense, in the optimistic sense, sir.
So, in your analysis, so socialism remains only just a word in the constitution. There is no practical implication of that.
Sir, I think it shapes the philosophy. It shapes the discourses within which the policy making is conducted, within which the public sphere is regulated. I think those discourses themselves are powerful enough to ensure that the spirit of socialism is adhered to.
Okay, thank you, Bhavesh.
The Bhavesh, you have studied political science, right? Can you please give me one example of judicial legislation?
Second, I think for a moment.
Yes, please. 20 seconds will be fine for you.
Sir, in the case of the stubble burning case, Supreme Court instituted the CAQM, the institution for ensuring that pollution reduces in NCR. So it is a case of
Judicial legislation. How do you see this development? I mean, I personally feel, if in a bona fide discharge of duty, judiciary is doing something which otherwise falls in the domain of parliament or legislature for that matter. So it's a genuine intervention. I mean, there are instances when on account of the parliament and the executive not doing their designated duties, if judiciary is intervening into their territory, in both the cases, the case of judicial legislation come up, right? Both the cases stand of Supreme Court is justified, because after all it is meeting up the mandate of doing justice to the larger people of our country. How do you see this development?
So I do agree with your point that justice is served, and one of the mandates of Supreme Court under Article 142 of the Constitution is to do complete justice. Secondly, it also ensures that popular legitimacy and popular trust in the system remains. Supreme Court is seen as the beacon of, it is seen as the sentinel of Indian democracy. So that popular trust is also required. But at the same time, sir, there are also some cons to this. For one, because a judiciary intervenes, we can say that it incentivizes lethargy in the legislature and the executive, because there is a sort of feeling of delegation that Supreme Court will take care of this, so we need not intervene too much. Secondly, it is also the case that judicial activism or judicial legislation can cause judicial overreach. It takes the judiciary's minds and energies away from its primary duty, that of adjudication.
So you are suggesting overreach is not in the interest of the concept of separation of power in our country. So what should be done about this? Can you suggest some measures wherein we can, put a system of balance, right? That all the constitutional, bodies are doing their duties, and at the same time, so we are working in tandem to meet the overall end of the constitution, that is welfare of its people.
So two-pronged approach is required. In the short term, we can establish a legal institutional framework in which the Supreme Court directs the legislature and the executive, and the legislature and the executive have to adhere to it, so that the legislation which has been outsourced to the judiciary goes back into the legislative domain. But whenever there is a vacuum or gap, the judiciary can direct the legislature to fill that gap. I got it.
Let me ask this question. After the revocation of this Article 370 and 35A, now the constitutional status has been clear with the verdict of Supreme Court. The judgment of the government of the day was declared valid, right? But this judgment has come with a caveat that says the government will have to restore the status of the state. I mean, it has also given the deadline of September 31st that the status of UT of Jammu and Kashmir will be sent back to the status of a state. How do you see this, pronouncement?
Sir, I think it strikes the right balance. It gives the legislature enough time to act on the recommendation. It also ensures that justice is done for the people of Jammu and Kashmir. It ensures that the legislature cannot be lethargic about it. It incentivizes proactiveness on the part of the legislature and the executive. At the same time, it does not encroach too much. It just gives the direction and gives its pronouncement over the primary issue of whether the revocation was just or not. So I think it is a balanced judgment, sir.
Okay, my last question to you. Certain pockets of northeastern states are, grappling with the problem of insurgency. In particular, the some portions of Nagaland, right? We have a insurgent group known by the name National Socialist Council of Nagaland, and the group is called Isaac Muiwa Group. Can you please tell me what recent serious efforts have been advocated by Government of India to enter into some sort of peace agreement, or as short term measure, the ceasefire?
So one confidence building measure we took was the FSPA was taken off from the region. It was no longer declared as a disturbed area. Secondly, the government has entered into conversations with the NSCN factions, and rather than taking a maximalist stand, both the sides have agreed to meet in the middle. The NSCN has said that the government is not rejecting our demands for a separate, for more autonomy, but the government has said that it is not going to give them separate constitution and separate flag. The tagline being Ek Desh, Ek Vidhan. So, sir, I think it is a progressive step because both the sides are moving towards the middle, and in a democracy, if the road to compromise is open, then discussions and deliberations can find the solution, sir.
Okay, from the perspective of somebody who has studied political science, is there any difference between insurgency and terrorism? A layman understands both synonymous with each other, but somebody who has studied political science, is there any technical difference between the two?
Sir, indeed there is. Terrorism, the basic idea of terrorism, the goal is to ensure that there is so much terror in the minds of the people that the government of the day is forced to listen to the terrorists' demands. The insurgency need not take the route of terrorism. It can be, it is necessarily violent, but the goal is not terror itself. The goal is to create disruptions so that the government has to accede to their demand. So I think it is a difference in the degree to which violence and terror are used as a means.
So which one is more political in nature, terrorism or insurgency?
So a case could be made for both, but I would say that insurgency is more political.
Thank you.
Bhavesh, looking into your service preference, you have given preference to the indirect taxes wing over direct taxes wing, right? And this is also a general choice. Why is it so? Why candidates are preferring indirect taxes over direct taxes service?
Sir, the first reason is that it is a uniformed service, so there is a psychological boost to that. Secondly, there is diversity of postings in indirect taxes, especially with the advent of GST. There has been an increase in the stature of IRS customs, is what aspirants like me perceive, what I have found from my interactions with others. So there is also, there are foreign postings, and postings are usually in better metropolitan cities. So all of these are good reasons.
Fine. In terms of direct taxes, can you give us assessment of last 10 years collection of corporate tax versus income tax? The trend.
So the trend has been one that is increasing, especially with the government rational.
Which is increasing? Just a comparison between these two taxes, corporate taxes and income tax.
Sorry, sir, I am not aware of the figures as such.
Right. Can you give us some trend about this goods and services tax in last 5 years?
Sir, initially the collections reduced, but the collections have been steadily picking up. The GST Council has ensured that all the stakeholders, their voice is heard, so that implementation is sound. The taxation has been increasing, and now the compensation fund has, the 5 years time limit has ended. So taxation, the government is going to get even more funds,
Fine.
sir.
So as per the interim budget 24-25, can you rank the top 3 taxes as a source of revenue collection for India?
Sorry, sir, I am not aware of the figures.
Fine. As a student of political science and as an enthusiast of dialectical conversation, I am giving you a case. Suppose we are talking about the first general election of India, right? 1952, called as the greatest gamble in history, right? As a in charge of this election, what kind of dialectical conversation will come to your mind? Just a few points.
So first would be that how to ensure that all the people participate.
Right.
And for that, the thesis would be to reach the last mile. The antithesis would be, but how to ensure the credibility of the election. Second is to ensure that the people, the registration process, the ROs and everybody do their duties in an honest manner. And so that is what we want.
So what were the special complex situation with respect to this particular election, 1952?
Sir, first of all, India, such a big and diverse country, so there was no democracy.
Diversity.
Sir. Second is the population was largely illiterate.
Right.
Sir, the third is that our bureaucracy was not trained to conduct elections on such a wide scale. Sir, and the fourth is the leaders and the people did not know what to expect from a democracy.
Fine.
So, sir, these are the things.
Fine. You have also studied international relation.
Sir.
Today, something special is going to happen in Nepal. What is that?
Sorry, sir, I might have missed it, sir.
Nepal is going through vote of confidence, right? What kind of, I mean, who is Prime Minister of Nepal?
Sir, it is Prachanda.
Right. And which party is in power in Nepal?
Sir, it is a coalition of the Communist Party.
Right.
And there is Mr. Lamichane's party. And sir, I'm forgetting the name of Mr. Prachanda's party, sir.
Fine. Tell us importance of Nepal for India. 3 points.
Sir, to ensure that it counters China in our neighborhood. Secondly, it is a core aspect of our neighborhood first policy. So how India deals with Nepal shows how India deals with other neighbor countries, and it is a confidence building measure in that regard. Third is that Nepal can be used as a via medium for arms smuggling, for smuggling of drugs. So controlling all these is required for internal security and economic integrity. Sir.
Right. My last question to you is that recently our External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar, with respect to our relation with China, he has termed that our relation is very much in a strained kind of condition. At the border, we both have mobilized huge amount of army, right? What is, as per you, what is the likelihood of a full-fledged war between India and China in such a tense kind of situation?
Sir, I think the likelihood is quite low, taking into account various considerations. For one, both are nuclear powered states and there is the fear of mutually assured destruction. Secondly, both are interconnected economically. So if China were to attack India and economic ties get strained, it is in detriment to not only China but the entire world economy. Third point, drawing from it, the international community is not going to allow, because India and China are both very important factors in international economy and international relations in general. Sir, fourth is that both the governments, though China usually takes a maximalist stance, it knows where the red lines are. It does not transgress them to an extent because it wants to maintain its image as the beacon of global south. So it is unlikely to attack India.
So what kind of situation you are looking ahead in next 2, 3, 4 years? Will it be tense like the same? What kind of situation will be?
Sir, China uses its aggressions to get India to bargain on other policy issues. For example, to not engage with Quad, to not go too much with the US. I think China is going to keep doing that, but its morale will be decreased because India has been firm on its stand and we have vociferously protected our borders. And because India is not backing down, I think that China is going to sooner or later recognize that India is not backing down and they have to take back their troops.
Fine. Thank you, Bhavesh.
Thank you, sir.
Bhavesh, it's heartening to know that you have taken up the cause of blood donation and you have been actively associated with the blood donation campaign. Now, we'll clarify one certain confusion in my mind. First confusion is that it is generally believed that certain blood group is universal donor, certain other is universal receiver. What is the logic or scientific reason behind it, or is there any scientific reason or not?
Sir, there is a scientific reason behind it, though the word universal donor is a bit of a misnomer. Though the O group can donate because it does not have the antigens, either A or B antigen, it can donate to everybody, but it is usually not taken up. It is only an emergency procedure because it has antibodies, both A and B antibody, and if it is, say, donating to A, it will attack the antigen on the A blood group, that is the B antigen. So it is usually mixed with certain medicines to ensure that the blood does not lead to clotting. So the universal donor and universal receiver, which is the AB, is a bit of a misnomer. The science allows it to donate, but only in certain.
Okay. What is the RH factor, significance of RH factor, RH negative and positive?
Sir, RH factor is another antigen on the envelope of the red blood cell. So there is no naturally occurring antibody to it. So if a person with RH negative gives the blood to RH positive person, so it will lead to the body creating antibodies against that and attacking the red blood cells, sir.
Suppose if in a couple, one person is having RH positive A group or other person is having AB group RH negative, then what precaution a couple should take or should not take any precaution regarding the childbirth?
Sir, after the birth of the first child, the mother should be given immunoglobulin to ensure that the hemolytic disease does not happen during her second pregnancy, especially if the mother is Rh positive, Rh negative, and the child is Rh positive.
Okay, thank you very much, Bhavesh. It was nice interacting with you. The interview is over. You may go now.
Thank you, sir.
Come in. Sit down, Bhavesh. Your interview is on 19th.
Ji, sir.
Okay, which attempt is this, Bhavesh?
Sir, second interview.
Second interview attempt?
Yes. Attempt third, sir.
Third attempt. First interview last year only.
Yes, sir.
What was your marks?
798.
Do you still want suggestion from us?
Yes, sir. I want to improve more, sir.
You're a wonderful candidate and an excellent candidate with sterling qualities of head and heart.
Thank you.
And you engaged us in an animated discussion on everything. So, a highly knowledgeable person, your communication skill is excellent, you weigh pros and cons of alternatives before giving any opinion or before giving any concluding remarks. So, that speaks volumes about your mental alertness, your critical power of assimilation, because the interview is all about that only, your personality test. And your very clear and logical exposition, so to say. Social traits are also excellent. So there is absolutely no problem, and your interest and knowledge of current affairs, absolutely up to the mark, balance of judgment was there. You are a person of absolute integrity. So these are the qualities which are seen in a civil servant, and you have already proved this quality last year also, and you are going to repeat this performance. So nothing much to tell you as such.
Thanks.
Last time we were not there in the income tax. Technically speaking, now you are going as a member of income tax, though you are on EOL and all that. But read about the interim budget, all aspects of the interim budget, particularly with respect to your tax collection. Because now income tax has become a greater collection basket as compared to the corporate tax. So those details is expected of you, although you don't have any working experience but what the department is doing about transparency and all that. Recently some changes have been suggested in the interim budget about the outstanding tax demands of income tax from persons up to rupees 10,000 per year up to certain year, beyond that 25,000 or so. So what are those changes, and why those changes were necessitated, why announcement was made by the finance minister, the rationale behind this. So just have a look at that, then you will understand what is the magnitude of problem for created by such small amounts aggregating to several hundreds crores of rupees. That is one area where you should take information, gather information as much as possible.
Okay, sir.
Beyond that, any question is asked, we don't have any doubts about your abilities to handle those questions.
Yes.
You will be really doing very well. You have worked in government of Haryana also for, you are still there?
No, sir, I resigned from that.
Must have resigned, sorry, you have joined there. So about the Haryana administrative issues, and you see the perception of the bureaucrats, why perception is like this, how to change that perception. Do you think that bureaucracy which has been working for the welfare of the people during the last 75 years, the same set of bureaucrats should be there for the next 75 years also? What are the qualitative changes? And that may take you to the larger issue of training and all that, and you know about those mission Karmi Yogi and all.
Yes.
So what are the basic contours of mission Karmi Yogi and all that, and you will get very good marks. 190 have already obtained, so that is almost the maximum one can obtain. You are already in that range. So how have you done, by the way, in your mains compared to the last year?
Sir, much better.
Much better. So you are a fit candidate to become a member of the Indian Administrative Service, which is your first choice, I believe.
Yes, sir.
Wish you all the best for our side. If you have still any specific doubt in your mind, feel free to ask us.
Sir, just one. If in the introduction, should I mention my age? Because I think that can be a
I
positive
don't
factor.
think it's required, because all the details are available with the board members. So age it means, because you are quite young, I believe.
Sir, I'm
isn't it?
23.
23. So it may tantamount to boasting about one's age. Look, I am 23 and still I am an achiever.
Okay,
So
sir.
let board appreciate that fact, that this is a young boy, because all parameters you are satisfying to become a member of the Indian Administrative Service. Unless until you decide not to become, nothing is going to happen. Just be your normal self, natural self, and go with the tide, and you will do well. Absolutely, no doubt. Okay.
Thank you very much.
All the best.
Thank you, sir.